everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Kellman, and I'm here to teach you everything that I know about modern jazz piano. Today, we are going to dive directly into a concept that I find really important and interesting for practicing improvisation, especially when it comes to difficult chord changes, but this can really apply to pretty much any chord progression on which you are practicing melodic improvisation. When I first started implementing this practice method, it completely changed my ability to hear changes, and it was really kind of an aha moment for me because it started to allow me so much more facility, and I'm hoping it's going to do the same for you. But first, if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button because I've got videos like this rolling out weekly. And also, if you know my stuff and are pretty sure you're going to like it, really appreciate you hitting that like button. It really helps me and the channel out. All right, let's dive right in. So one song I really struggled to wrap my head around was Giant Steps, and we're going to dive into that, but a little bit later in this video, so be sure to stick around. Let's start off with something a little bit more simple, something that many people are going to know. Let's start with the tune, All the Things You Are. Let's look at the chord changes here. So of course, just our first two chords are going to be F minor 7 to B flat minor 7, and then we go to E flat 7. Here I'm doing E flat 9, and then to A flat major 7. So for the chord scales, we can do F Dorian to B flat Dorian, to E flat Mixolydian, to A flat major. Very plain and simple, especially for the purposes of this exercise. Now, when I was learning to read sheet music, which by the way, I'm still pretty bad at, and I didn't start learning until much later in my piano playing. In fact, I think it was late in high school that I started to be able to kind of start to sight read. A specific kind of mental shift that I made a huge difference for me. And that was actively making the decision to always be thinking ahead. And I think pretty much any great sight reader will tell you this, that they're not simply reading the measure that they're currently playing, their brain is really working a little bit ahead, and that's kind of how they're able to sit down and sight read so well. They're able to see a whole phrase or even a full set of bars of the music, and that allows them the freedom to keep reading, keep moving, and always kind of be ahead of the game. So just like a sight reader, we're going to start thinking ahead. And we can practice this to different degrees. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to turn on a metronome in 4/4, choose a tempo that's nice and slow to start off, make it easy for you. I still do this exercise because there are certain progressions that I find really challenging. This exercise helps me out so much. All right, so we've got our metronome going, not too fast. First step, right, continuous scale would just be play the chords with the scales attached right in tempo. Go down as well. That's it. Now the next step is we're going to start thinking ahead. So at least one beat before the next measure, I want you to start transitioning to the next scale. Okay, so let's try that out. So starting F Dorian here. 2, 3, 4. Now, with such a functional progression, this might be a little difficult to hear, so now that I've explained the concepts, I'm actually going to switch to something a little bit trickier. So let's take a look at Giant Steps. Really quick, if you're getting a lot out of this video so far, I would really appreciate you smashing that like button. Really helps me out. Quick note, by the way, right now my reharm course has gone up in price, but it's still going to continue rising as I add in more and more content. So if you haven't had a chance to dive in and take a look yet, but you still think that getting better at reharmonization is something you're interested in and you want a great deal, be sure to check out the link in the description. Prices are only going to go up from here, and I also really appreciate you taking the time to check it out because every single sale goes straight to helping me have the time and energy to keep making videos just like this. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really appreciate it. Let's just take a look at a couple bars here. So we've got B major to D7 to G major to B flat 7 to E flat major, right? This classic Coltrane cycle. So again, I'm going to start transitioning my scale to the next chord's scale a beat ahead of the next chord. So that means I'm beat 4 of the previous measure. Now, as we practice this, here's what I would recommend. For now, let's use 4 beats for each chord, even though technically in this progression, each chord is 2 beats. We're going to do this for practice purposes so that we can hear the transitions from chord to chord. It's totally okay to do this, especially with a song that's moving fast. And then as we get better at it, we can just condense down to just 2 beats per chord. So again, 4 beats per chord here, and I'm going to start each scale 1 beat early. So on beat 4 of the previous bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now getting this to be smooth can be a little bit tricky, but hopefully you heard some of the changes I did there. So for example, we went from B major, then I actually led to the D7 by switching to the scale here. So even though this note clashes with B, it leads the ear to that D dominant 7. Now that's just starting 1 beat early. This time let's start 2 beats early. This might actually be a little bit more apparent in terms of hearing the changes. So suddenly we're getting this really nice voice leading into the next chord using our lines. So this is something that's really, really awesome to practice. You can even do it a full measure in advance of the next chord. Or for example, if you're doing a song like Giant Steps, which is just 2 chords per beat, you could actually just essentially practice improvising the next chord over each chord. So it's a weird thing, but it can sound kind of interesting. Now that's not always going to sound good, but it's a really interesting to practice, and you'll see that if you use it sparingly, especially in the middle of a progression, it can work really, really well. When you start right off, you might be better off hitting an actual chord tone. But let's do a little experimentation with this. So aside from those original chord tones right on the B major, that actually worked really, really well. I was always thinking a full chord ahead, so a full 2 beats ahead in terms of my improvisation. Now doing this, especially with some of those modern non-functional progressions, can really, really yield some amazing results because it allows your brain to not get overwhelmed. So if you're practicing a tune really, really fast or playing a tune really fast, your ears want to lead you to the next chord. And this is something that we don't talk about nearly enough. I don't know if you've ever experienced just sitting there and thinking chord by chord and they move by so fast and you're trying to make sure that you hit the notes of each chord. Practicing this can completely change your playing in that sense because now you can think about the chord ahead. Hey, in worst case scenario, you get back on track to the original set of chords. Now, I've been doing this mostly in terms of continuous scale, but as we move forward with the continuous scale exercise, we start using approach notes and enclosures, and at that point, we start to get our improvisation sounding, more idiomatic to jazz and bebop language. Now, I would actually love to hear how you do practicing this exercise, so I have an assignment for you. Go try this out for even just 5 to 10 minutes right after watching this video or sometime today, and I want you to leave me a comment letting me know if this was helpful and how you did with it, or even if you have any suggestions about your experience that you could offer to anybody else who's trying this out. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time with another tutorial.